1:07 a.m. A woman who once held the box office in the palm of her hand locked herself in a bedroom closet and whispered into a 911 line, praying the footsteps outside wouldn't stop at her door. No entourage, no bodyguards, no script. Just Sandra Bullock, a mother, alone in her own house, learning the hard way that fame can't buy safety, and courage isn't found on a red carpet. It's found in the dark, trembling but refusing to break. That's the real story I'm telling you today. Not the poster version, the human version. The one that shows how a little girl mocked for her accent, a young actress dismissed by studios, a wife shattered by betrayal, and a partner brought to her knees by a disease with no mercy, still chose dignity over spectacle and love over bitterness again and again. Roll back the tape. She wasn't born into chaos or poverty. Sandra Annette Bullock arrived in 1964 with music already in the house. A German opera singer for a mother, a disciplined American voice coach for a father. It sounds elegant until you hear the cost. Childhood in transit, backstage instead of backyards, European choirs instead of kickball. By 10, she'd lived in more cities than most of her classmates would visit in a lifetime. When the family finally came back to the States, the welcome was cruel. Funny clothes, funny voice, hallway laughter that doesn't include you. That's where her empathy came from, standing at the edge of the room, noticing the other kids standing there too. That's also where her steel came from. She left college a few credits shy of a drama degree and bet on New York with nothing but hunger. Nights bartending, blistered feet, ramen counted as dinner and heat counted as luxury. Not because her parents didn't love her, because she refused the easy path. She wanted to earn it, and the city made her pay. The late 80s handed out bit parts that disappeared without a ripple. Hangman, Religion, Inc., Who Shot Pataconville. Every no sharpened the blade. She has said she learned more from the no's than the yeses. You can hear it in the way she carries herself. No entitlement, just grit. Then the first break. Demolition Man in 1993. She wasn't the star, but she stole the frame, standing next to Stallone and Snipes. 1 year later came the lightning strike no one planned for. Speed. The Annie role wasn't written for her. It wasn't even circling her name. She walked into an audition with a folding chair and a Piper plate for a steering wheel and made it feel like a city bus racing toward catastrophe. Because she didn't act panic. She understood it. Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock. Chemistry you can't fake. And a box office that turned a small action movie into a juggernaut. Overnight, the waitress with blistered hands had the country calling her America's sweetheart. But here's where she outgrew that label. Sweethearts wait to be chosen. Sandra started choosing. Fortis Films, her company, her stories, her terms. Hope Floats, Miss Congeniality, 2 weeks' notice, and television too. George Lopez, a hit that didn't need her face to prove her instincts. She took the bad with the good on purpose. Speed 2? She did it to get Hope Floats made. Critics torched her for the sequel. She smiled and kept moving. That's what adults do. Take the heat to build what matters. The Crown arrived in 2010 with The Blind Side. Leanne Toohey, fierce, maternal, unflinching. Oscar night should have been pure victory. 10 days later came the ambush. Headlines about a husband who wasn't faithful, a marriage unraveling in public. Here's the unpublicized truth that cuts. In January that year, weeks before the awards, Sandra had brought home a 3-month-old boy from New Orleans, Louis. On Oscar night, she tucked his tiny green socks in her clutch like a secret blessing. The world celebrated the role. She was living the reality, signing divorce papers with one hand, holding a bottle with the other. She didn't turn her heartbreak into a circus. No talk show confessions, no revenge tour. Just a mother protecting her child and choosing silence over rage. That is strength, not softness. Then gravity. Alone on screen for most of the film, and it felt like she held your pulse in her hand. $700 million later, the industry learned a lesson it pretends not to know. A woman can carry a film, financially, artistically, if you let her. Her deal on Gravity was one of the smartest in modern Hollywood. She negotiated like someone who had scrubbed tables and counted coins. She knew what her work was worth and demanded it without apology. Bird Box proved she could own the new era too. A cultural moment, a global phenomenon, and a reminder that audiences don't abandon stars who refuse to abandon them. The unforgivable, raw and bruised. The Lost City, charming and effortless. She could switch gears because her career wasn't built on trends. It was built on craft. And then there was that night in Los Angeles, June 2014. A stalker inside her home. The man carried no gun that night, but he didn't need one. Terror is its own weapon. She did everything right, and still the cost lingered in her body. Panic, tears in random daylight, sleep torn by alarms only she could hear. She found EMDR and fought her way back, not to give an interview about healing, but so her son wouldn't inherit fear he never asked for. That's a mother. That in 2015, a rare mercy, Brian Randall. He came into her home as a photographer for Lewis's birthday and stayed as the man who saw Sandra, not Sandra Bullock. They never walked down an aisle. They didn't need to. He was the steady voice in the kitchen at midnight, the go-to for bad days, the laugh that fixed an ordinary Tuesday. That same year, with Brian by her side, she adopted a daughter, Layla, a little girl who had already survived too much. If you want to know who someone is, watch who they protect. Sandra protected both of them with the same ferocity she once put into chasing roles. And then came the diagnosis no family deserves. ALS. The slow theft. The disease that takes and takes until it steals a voice you can still hear in your head at night. They chose silence, not out of shame, but to keep the children's joy unpoisoned by a countdown. She stepped away from sets and premieres and turned a home into a sanctuary. Nurses folded into the rhythm of ordinary life, favorite songs playing, kids' drawings pressed into hands that no longer obeyed. She learned machines. She learned patience. She learned the language of goodbye, one small kindness at a time. She kept love bigger than disease for as long as humanly possible. On August 5th, 2023, Brian died at 57. No PR statement can hold that kind of grief. Only a kitchen with one chair suddenly empty can. 9 days later, the noise machine roared back to life. Michael Oher filed suit against the Toohey family, and the internet, brilliant at missing the point, turned on the actress who played a role based on a book about his story. Strangers demanded she return an Oscar she earned with her work, as if an actress writes legal documents or manages anyone's finances. Imagine burying the love of your life and then opening your phone to accusations that have nothing to do with you. She answered with what she always answers with: nothing. Dignity is a better weapon than outrage, and she knows how to wield it. So where is she now? Not retired, too smart to make pronouncements she can't control, but stepped back because 2 kids need a present parent more than Hollywood needs another premiere. Pilates, cycling, kickboxing, a life built on routine and privacy instead of parties and flashbulbs. The industry would open every door if she knocked. She's not knocking. Not yet. The priority is pancakes on a Saturday morning and homework at the table, and the kind of peace you can't buy, only earn. Here's my verdict. Sandra Bullock is the rare thing this town pretends to value but rarely produces. A grown-up. She worked. She took her lumps. She built something. When her house fell down, publicly, she protected her children instead of her image. When danger came to her own bedroom, she didn't turn the aftermath into content. She did the quiet, grueling work to heal. When love asked for everything she had, she gave it without asking for applause. And when the mob circled, she let them tie. The little girl who was laughed at learned to make millions feel seen. The waitress who counted tips learned to count the zeros on contracts she negotiated herself. The wife who was humiliated learned to rebuild without bitterness. The partner who nursed a dying man learned that love is measured in small, relentless acts, not big speeches. Call it resilience if you want. I'll call it character, because character is what you do when no one claps, when the cameras are turned off, when your child is sleeping 2 rooms away and the house is too quiet. Character is a mother staying silent so her kids can stay children. Character is returning to work only when you can look them in the eye. You don't have to agree with her films to respect her life. I do, and if you're honest, you do too. So keep the posters and the trophies if you want. The legacy is simpler, cleaner, tougher. A woman who walked through storms without making the storm her personality. A mother who chose presence over applause. A professional who lived by the oldest rule there is: earn it. At 1:07 a.m., hiding in a closet, she whispered for help and kept breathing. Years later, standing in her own kitchen, she whispered goodbye and kept going. That's the arc. Not from star to legend, from survivor to leader. And when she decides to step back in front of the camera, if she does, remember this: the light on her face isn't the spotlight. It's the kind you can't fake. The shine you get from doing hard things the right way, in the dark, when nobody's watching.